Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Zay Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective. Hey there, everyone. Zay Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Hope you're doing well here on this Monday as we start the month of the month of November. I don't even know what month we're in. The month of November full time here. Sorry, I had a little technological issue that I was dealing with on my end. My fault. I apologize. We're back and ready to rock and roll now here for the next hour or so. Again, I'm Zay Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. Thanks for joining me here as you do oftentimes on a Monday. Hopefully you're with us Monday through Friday on Fantasy Sports Daily, 9 o'clock on the West Coast in the morning, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talk for about an hour or so. Some days it's 55 minutes. Some days it's an hour and 5 minutes. About an hour a day, Monday through Friday. I'm here with you Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And I'm Zay Flowers of FG. You can find me on the social media verses at the Zay Flowers. On Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman's here. So the show is Monday through Friday, 12 o'clock Eastern Time on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. After this show, we have a little ditty called Elite Sports. That's hosted by Jeff Manns Monday through Friday from 3 to 6. On Wednesdays, I'm on with Jeff from 3 to 6. So I'm here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff for 3 hours over there. Again, you can find my work, the whole crew's work, everyone you see here as guests, every articles that you hear me reference and all that kind of stuff over at fg.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. I don't know if it's still active or not, but you can try the promo code BOO, B-O-O, BOO. I don't know. Sometimes they last a little bit longer than we anticipate in terms of being available for you folks to check out. So use the promo code BOO. We were running a special where if you sign up for the DFS football package or the wagering football package, you got $100 off. So check that out. Use that promo code BOO over at fantasyguru.com. It's a Monday, and if you're new to Mondays here on the show, welcome. For those of you back, Hal, Doug, Sean, Danny, hello, all of you. What we do on Mondays is I sit here, and it's the only day of the week we don't have a guest. Tuesdays, it's myself and Armando Marsal. We talk about waiver wires. Wednesdays, Justin Fensterman and Rich Mileto. Thursdays, it's myself and Tyler Beaker. We preview Thursday Night Football. Fridays, it's myself and Russell Clay. So this is the only day where one of the hosts isn't guesting with someone else because we spend the entire show on Monday, me just giving my thoughts about each side of the games for all the games on Sunday. So we'll start out, we'll go game by game on Sunday. We'll talk about a key point on both sides of things. For more on this, again, fantasyguru.com. There'll be tons of articles. We always have the up or down, the trending piece. Then we start diving into the waiver wire and all that kind of stuff. So check that out over at fantasyguru.com. Again, that subscribe tab in the top right corner. For those of you watching us live on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. For those of you watching live on Facebook at facebook.com/fantasyguruhq. As you know, you can leave comments and questions that we address throughout the show. You can also watch us live on Twitter X at Fantasy Guru site. You can always type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network and then find us, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, et cetera, and then you can always just go to fantasyguru.com, click that Elite Plus page at the top, Elite Plus tab at the top, and check it out. All right, so here we go. Let's talk about what we got going on here today, starting with the game between Dallas and Atlanta. Falcons moved to 6-3. The Cowboys fell to 3-5 heading into their break. Their season's kind of on the brink. 27-21 here. Cowboys lose to the Falcons. Dak Prescott hurts his hamstring. That's the big storyline here. CeeDee Lamb got beat up too. It seems like he'll be okay, coming through the bye, but there is legitimate concern with Dak Prescott, who was unable to finish the game yesterday. He played about half the game with the hamstring issue. There's a report this morning he's going for an MRI to determine the severity of his injury. If Cooper Rush is the quarterback, it's over. It's over, right? So their defense, the Cowboys, is all beat up. They hope to get Micah Parsons back soon, but the defense is beat up. The offense can't sustain anything. At least Rico Dowdle did something on the field, 75 yards rushing. He had a receiving touchdown. But the big storyline is Dak Prescott. Where is he going to be? Has he been a disappointment this season in the fantasy space? Sure, I think that's fair. Where is he at right now in scoring at the quarterback position? He's 19th in total points at the quarterback position. That's disappointing. You were hoping for him to be 9th. Would there still be time in the second half of the season for him to get to 9th? Sure. You look at these numbers here. The difference between 19th and 9 is 30 points. So he's better than the other guy 4 points a week, right? So there's still time for him to return a decent fantasy effort. But the fact is, this new injury is a huge concern for him and the entire offense. All we can do is wait to see what happens here. As I noted here, we got bye weeks coming up. This is one of the weeks where we start getting the heavy bye weeks. I did misspeak. I said they have a bye this week. They don't have a bye this week. I apologize for that. The byes this week are Cleveland, the Las Vegas Raiders, Seattle Seahawks, the Green Bay Packers. There's legitimate concern with whether or not Dak's going to be ready to go for the next game. And again, if I said that, if he's not ready to go, this offense is just not. They can't run the football effectively, despite what Dalton did yesterday. That's really the first time pretty much all season they've had an effective running back. Ezekiel Elliott apparently is flaming out behind the scenes, not even showing up for work. So he was inactive yesterday. Dodgers. Cowboys are in real trouble. They're in real trouble. On the other side of the field, when we talk about Atlanta, sorry about that. I clicked the wrong thing there. Luckily, I didn't have anything bad written on there. What I do here, by the way, for those people wondering what that page was, that's the page of all the players we're going to discuss today. You load that into YouTube so that people can find it that you're talking about, Nick Chubb or whatever it might be. When we're talking about Atlanta, we're going to talk about Drake London. Drake London, who has gone 5-16 a touchdown like almost every week, right? He's been super consistent after that down first effort. Got in the end zone again yesterday. The problem is he hurt his hip on the catch. He only played about a quarter of football, 2 catches. He played in the second quarter. 2 catches, 27 yards in the score. He got in the end zone, but he gave you 10 points. Disappointing. After the game, we heard the hip is an issue. Yeah, but then they said there was an oblique issue. And it's like, oh, man. So here we go, right? We'll see. We'll keep an eye on things. It doesn't seem like at this point anyone is panicked about Drake London, but there are a bunch of wide receivers across the land, all of whom appear to be on my fantasy squads. Bunch of players across the line. By the way, I have a league where I didn't have DK Metcalf yesterday, didn't have Mike Evans yesterday, didn't have Juju Smith-Schuster yesterday, and lost A.J. Brown after 2 quarters. That's fun. Yeah, my top 4 receivers. Yeah, okay, cool, fun. Anyway, in another league, my Dynasty League, I lost Drake London after less than half a game. I have Rashee Rice done for the season. I have Nico Collins on the injury list. I'm in a 16-team Dynasty League, okay, where Rashee Rice is out, Nico Collins is out, and Drake London got hurt yesterday. Like, those 3 guys are dynamic threesome of wide receivers in a 16-team league. I got 2 quarters of football out of them yesterday. Lots of fun. I know you're having fun too. So I'm just sharing. We'll see what happens with Drake London. We don't have any clarity now as we do the show at 9:10 here on the morning West Coast time on a Monday. What it means, again, they're saying and expressing optimism that he'll be able to make the next game for the Falcons. Darnell Mooney had a touchdown, 88 yards. He stepped up. Ray McLeod scored, but he only had 3 targets, so he didn't really elevate. They didn't run many plays, did the Falcons in winning that football game. They ran the ball 30 times. They threw it 24. Very moderate effort. Bijan Robinson and Darnell Mooney were the only guys that flashed as catchers. Kyle Pitts, 1 catch. Yeah, thanks, guys. That was really nice. And moving on to the next game, Denver and Baltimore. Denver got destroyed 41-10. For some reason, Bo Nix is running routes. If you missed it, Courtland Sutton, 7 catches for 122 yards. Strong effort. He also threw a touchdown pass to Bo Nix. Bo Nix got hit at the goal line. He had to jump up in the air. He landed hard. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. I know Bo Nix is young and athletic, but why are we running our quarterback out? I don't understand. We talk about this on the show all the time. If you can't win playing straight football, you've lost. Anyway, so Bo Nix, 223 yards, no touchdowns, an interception. He ran for 36 yards on the ground. Bo Nix continues to do enough to be in the streaming consideration. I saw a question this morning over at fantasyguru.com in the Discord. By the way, if you sign up, you get the Discord access. We have rooms for betting, DFS, seasonal, dynasty. You get access to all these rooms when you sign up. Subscribe, top right corner at fantasyguru.com. I had a question this morning. It's like, should I just go with Bo Nix the rest of the way over Kyler Murray? And the answer to that is no. You should still go to Kyler Murray and Bo Nix still have the same point total, almost identical to this point in time. Bo Nix is really, there's fortune here. I mean, again, Bo Nix had a receiving touchdown yesterday. If he didn't have a receiving touchdown yesterday, this is a nothing game, just like Kyler Murray. He's thrown for 210 yards a week. There's not a lot of volume here. There's not a lot of yardage here. The use of his legs is impressive, and that will keep him afloat. And that's why I said in streaming consideration at the quarterback spot. Don't forget this week we're without Winston. the Raiders, we'll talk more about in a moment here, but the Raiders aren't saying that Gardner Minshew is their quarterback. They might go to Desmond Ridder for the next game because Aiden O'Connell's out with an injury. Like, oof. So we don't worry about him. Geno Smith, Jordan Love, Bo Nix. His status hasn't changed that much for this week, but he's in the streaming conversation. But I still wouldn't feel confident starting him as my number one quarterback as I hit the button again to show the other screen. Zay Flowers, look, Zay Flowers had a big game yesterday. 5 catches, 127 yards, and 2 touchdowns. We really worried, and I think it didn't play itself out yesterday because of what happened, because he scored the 2 touchdowns out of the 27 yards. But if you look at what happened yesterday for the Ravens in this football game, they blew out the Broncos, so it easily could have been less work for Zay Flowers. Let's not get overly excited by the fact he had 6 targets. It's not a big target number. Let's not get overly excited by the fact he only played 30 snaps out of the 51 they had. So he was barely on the field half the time. Rashad Bateman actually played more snaps. He actually ran more routes. Deontay Johnson showed up and played 17 snaps, so he really wasn't part of this offense. They decided yesterday, because of the way the game flow and everything went, to not use the tight end. They only threw 3 passes. Lamar Jackson only threw 3 passes at the tight end. Zay Flowers went for 127 and 2 touchdowns in a game where Lamar Jackson threw 19 passes. Don't get carried away with Zay Flowers. He's still a starter. We've talked about this when the trade with Deontay Johnson happened last week. We talked about this. He's still a starter, but you got to keep your expectations in check and don't anticipate things like yesterday happening very often moving forward. It's great to see, but again, there's a lot of negatives there to preclude you from being, Flowers is going to be a wide receiver 1 the rest of the way. That's just not going to happen. Next game, Miami and Buffalo. And look, Tua Tagovailoa did his best. Jared Goff yesterday, 25 for 28, 231 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's played pretty good football in the couple of games he's had since his return. Now, the Dolphins still lost the game to the Bills 30-27. They fell to 2-6. Their season's about over. If it's not already over, it's got about that much left. And I wanted to spotlight Tua, not because, again, he's usable in the fantasy space, but this just, since he's come back, what Tua Tagovailoa has basically been is a dump-off artist. That's not overly surprising. A lot of his success over the last couple of years has been throw the ball to space, let Waddle or Hill grab it and run 18 yards after the catch. Okay. But he is incessantly throwing the ball to Devon Achane. Like, Achane's averaging like 7 catches a game the last 4 games or something like that, catching passes from Tua Tagovailoa. Like, this is Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara on steroid stuff. Like, everything is going to Achane. And while, Tyreek Hill had 80 yards yesterday, 4 catches for 80 yards, even though Tua had that success, Hill didn't do anything. And Jalen Waddle got in the end zone. And it's got -4 yards because they did that weird thing where they were trying the flea flicker and everything, and he got like -23 yards on the play. So it dropped him down to -4 yards on 2 catches. And he did get in the end zone. Waddle's not part of the offense. He had 2 targets. And, if you're going into Buffalo trying to beat the Bills and you throw the ball 7 times to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, how are you going to win a game? And they didn't. So I wanted to use Tua as a foil to discuss these guys. You always start Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle, he's on the edge. You got to be in a 3 wide receiver league to be starting Jalen Waddle at this point. I and the staff at fantasyguru.com was pretty pro Waddle. We gave him kind of a mulligan for that first game back. Okay. Waddle continues to just be an afterthought in this offense. 6 targets to Jonnu Smith, 8 to Achane. Odell Beckham got 1 more target yesterday than Waddle. Oof. On the other side of things, Dalton Kincaid, look, it's the tight end position. The tight end position sucks. It's the way it is. It's going to be this way all season long. Seems that way. We're only halfway through, but it seems that way. Dalton Kincaid, with Amari Cooper being out with the wrist injury, let's get more work from Dalton Kincaid. We did. We got 10 targets. He caught 4 balls for 32 yards. Keon Coleman's going for more tests on his wrist. He didn't step forward when Cooper Kupp was down with the wrist injury and didn't play yesterday. He had 2 targets, caught 1 of them. He did drop a ball that was right in his hands. That was at about the 5-yard line. That would have been a touchdown. So that's not ideal. Mac Hollins got in the end zone. Ray Davis took a pass 63 yards for a touchdown. Khalil Shakir caught 6 balls for 50 yards. And here we are, Dalton Kincaid, 4 catches for 32 yards. There's just, he's got about as safe a floor as any of the non-elite tight ends, but there's 0 ceiling. So he doesn't separate himself at all from the Mike Gesicki streaming options of the world. And it's like he was drafted to be more than that. He's been expected all along to be more than that, Dalton Kincaid. There have been opportunities throughout the season. Shakir has missed time. Curtis Samuel's missed a ton of time. Mark Cooper's missed. It just hasn't happened for Dalton Kincaid. And, at some point you have to look back at, the promise of his rookie season and just say straight up, it's not being fulfilled. He's still a tight end one. I still say you start him, but the expectations by now, they're down here, and I just don't know if they're going to get back up here. It's just not happening. And he's just another one of these scenarios where it's just not happening. In one of the more exciting games of the day, actually it was a close game. The Panthers defeated the Saints 22-23. The Saints won their first 2 games of the year. They've now lost 7 straight. They're a dumpster fire. Dennis Allen, their head coach, was fired, if you didn't see that information. They have been, by the way, remember they went 2-0 and they scored 91 points? They lost yesterday to the Panthers, who are a terrible football team, who are trying to basically get the first pick in the draft this year. So they fired their head coach. This organization's in complete turmoil. The team is not good. Chris Olave had a cheap shot to his head, resulted in the second concussion in 3 weeks. His season is obviously in peril at this point. They're saying this is his 5th concussion that's been reported. And again, his second in 3 weeks. Has to be an IR stay coming at the minimum, and his season could be over. So they very likely losing their number 1 wide receiver. Bub Means is already on the injured list, so he's not an option. This team is Alvin Kamara. And we saw it yesterday. Alvin Kamara, I think, had his first 200 yards from scrimmage game of his career. He had 35 touches. Didn't get in the end zone, but had over 200 yards of offense, 6 catches. Alvin Kamara has been an excellent football player, super productive. He's catching 5 passes every game this year too, but he will die with workloads like this. No chance he makes it to the end of the season. And he has shown an ability to play, I guess, through injuries, but he always misses time. And you can't give an aging running back 30-plus touches a week. We know that. The problem is they can't do anything but give him the ball that much. They have no offense. Kendrick Miller can't stay healthy. Jamal Williams can't stay healthy, so there's no support in the backfield for Alvin Kamara. We talked about, Olave being down, Bub Means is down. Look at this receiving corps. Cedric Wilson led the receivers yesterday with 3 targets. So it's Alvin Kamara bust. So if you have him, you're getting 20 touches a week. I don't know how long this will last. It is fair to consider trading him. If you have questions about trading him, hit us up in the Discord over at fantasyguru.com, and we will determine whether or not we're making the right move and what the package is for sending him out. On the other side of things, there's a lot to talk about here. Bryce Young didn't play terribly, which is gaming with faint praise, but he didn't play terribly. Chubb Hubbard got in the end zone twice. Xavier Legette scored a touchdown, though. If you didn't see the play, he hurt his wrist, so maybe he had a little lack of hand strength. But he caught a pass, and as he was catching the pass, the defender literally ripped the ball out of his hands. Okay. So John Charles ends up with an interception on a ball that was in Legette's hands that he caught, and as he was coming down, getting his feet on the ground, the defender literally ripped the ball right out of his hands. So it goes as an interception to Young. It wasn't a bad throw. It was a perfect throw, actually. Completely on Xavier Legette. But the guy I wanted to talk about was Jatavian Sanders, the tight end, because you look at this team, there are still rumblings that Adam Thielen, who should be active for the next game for somebody coming back from his leg injury. There are rumors that Thielen could still be traded. Again, the Panthers should be 1-8. They somehow defeated the Saints yesterday, which again led to the firing of their head coach. But Jatavian Sanders has started to become a thing. And if you look at this receiving core, Coker didn't do anything yesterday. He had 3 targets. Legette's clearly the number 1. If Adam Thielen's gone, there's rumors they might trade Miles Sanders too, who's been soaking up 4, 5, 6 targets a week in the backfield as well. There's a chance that Sanders is, if not the number 1 pass catching option for the Panthers, the rest of the number 2. And with the tight end position being as it is, Jatavian Sanders, he's a tight end too, but put him on that watch list. If you've got an open roster spot and you like to carry 2 tight ends, or your tight end's down this week, Jatavian Sanders is the name to remember. An athletic youngster who's getting an opportunity, and they might as well give him opportunities, let him grow and start planning for the future, because obviously the season's already over. I mentioned this earlier that the Raiders benched Gardner Minshew for the second time in 3 weeks. Aiden O'Connell is down with an injury, so he's not an option. Desmond Ridder came in, 74 yards, a touchdown. He went 11 for 16. He's athletic and all that. But he's not a good quarterback. Maybe they fixed him a little bit from his time in the Falcons, but he's not a good quarterback. He's not a quarterback you want to turn to if you're trying to, turn your season around. The Bengals defeated the Raiders 41-24 yesterday. Really wasn't even that close. Bengals moved to 4-5. The Raiders fall to 2-7. It's bad. Okay. And as a result of it being so bad, the offensive coordinator, Luke Getsy, fired. Luke Getsy did jack nothing with the Bears. He was a bad signing when the Raiders made the move. Okay. Fired him. So he's gone. Then you look at what else they did. Let's see. Who else did they fire? I'm trying to remember where it is. I had a note here. Oh, here it is. No, this isn't it. Dang it. Let me pull it up as we're talking here. They fired everybody. They fired their OC. Adam Schefter had the report this morning. Sorry, folks, that I forgot exactly who this was, but I will pull it up momentarily. Okay. So, number one, he's gone. Number two, where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? Come on, folks. Help me out here. Stop talking about Dennis Allen. Adam Schefter really likes talking about Dennis Allen. Okay. Raiders fired Luke Getsy, their offensive coordinator. They fired their offensive line coach, James Gregg. They fired their quarterback coach, Rich Scangarello. Or Scangarello, sorry. So they fired their quarterback coach, their offensive line coach, and their offensive coordinator. Within the last hour, the head coach of the team, Antonio Pierce, who also was a bad hire, told reporters that they haven't decided who will call plays or who will be the quarterback. So it's not just will Desmond Ridder be the quarterback next time. They don't even know who's calling plays next game they play. Now, again, they're on a bye week, so they'll have time to figure this all out. But the term dumpster fire, Las Vegas Raiders, dumpster fire. In terms of what happened on the field yesterday, I guess the biggest takeaway here is that with all these changes in the coaching staff on the offensive side of the ball, we have to first find out who the quarterback is. Gardner Minshew gives this team a better chance to win than Desmond Ridder. Not that Gardner Minshew's any good, but they benched him twice in 3 games. There was the debate all along. Clearly, Antonio Pierce, coaching staff, there's something with Gardner Minshew they don't like. Because they have basically, since he was signed, tried to replace him with Aiden O'Connell, and now they're talking about replacing him with Desmond Ridder. Okay. The biggest takeaway here is that, number one, we're still going to get the work to Myers and Bowers. Those two had 19 targets. The rest of the receiving core right now doesn't matter because they can't consistently move the football. Secondly, the question becomes about the backfield. What happens in the backfield here? Yesterday, Zamir White got in the end zone. I had a touchdown. I think he got, let me pull this up. I think he had 6 touches on 7 snaps. Yeah, I'm right. Zamir White touched the ball 6 times on 7 snaps. Why did he get that whole time? Why did he get multiple carries at the goal line? I don't know. He got in the end zone. Okay. Amir Abdullah played 30 snaps. He had the most snaps of any of the 3 guys. I get it. They were behind. Abdullah's more the pass catching back. Cool. But Alexander had 24 snaps, 11 routes run. He touched the ball 9 times. The real pull away here is whoever the new OC is, whoever the new play caller is, whatever the new plan is offensively, that backfield's in complete flux. Maybe when we come back from the bye week, it's Zamir White leading the backfield. Maybe it's Alexander Madison. I don't think it's Amir Abdullah. Maybe they sprinkle him in more, but it's White or Madison still that's going to be the lead running back, at least on early downs and short yardage. Maybe Zamir White's an ad. Again, we're totally speculating here. There's so many unknowns, but Raiders are dumpster fire. On the other side of things, Chase Brown takes over the backfield yesterday and went nuclear. He had 32 touches yesterday. That's insane. If you look at the snap counts, he played 59 of the 73 snaps. Trayvon Williams had 7 snaps. Kendall Mitten had 5. They were barely on the field. They didn't touch the ball. Brown got, if I'm not mistaken, Brown got 100% of the backfield touches. 100% with Zach Moss out with the neck injury. He ran for 120 yards. He had 5 catches for 37 yards and a touchdown. Miraculous. Now, Moss was an unexpected DNP yesterday with the neck issue. We haven't had much of an update as to how much further time he will miss, if any. If Moss is back out there, Moss will go back to playing third downs and all that. Remember, too, yesterday that the Bengals were stomping out the Raiders so much that it was there was no need for the team to use third down backs because they were never in situations where they had third and long or were behind in the game. So Brown's usage yesterday was an anomalous situation, but it just does go to show you what can be done in this offense on the ground against an inferior opponent. Brown right now still has to be viewed as a flex option. He still can't be viewed as an every week starter because I still think when Moss comes back, he plays those third downs and soaks up 38% of the snaps. But Brown is clearly trending in the right direction. The Chargers and Browns. Chargers 27-10. Chargers went to 5-3. Browns fall to 2-7 as they head to the bye week. On the Chargers side of things, Josh Palmer got in the end zone, wasn't covered by the Browns on the touchdown. Quentin Johnston got in the end zone, wasn't covered by the Browns on the touchdown. So go check out those highlights if you haven't seen them. Justin Herbert goes for 282, 2-0. A strong effort yet again from him. He's playing really good football. J.K. Dobbins had a couple of rushing touchdowns. Quentin Johnston is somebody that I saw people rejoicing about yesterday. If you played Quentin Johnston yesterday, you made the wrong choice. Glad it worked out for you, but you made the wrong choice. It was a bad decision to play Quentin Johnston unless you're like me, you're without Evans and Metcalf and Juju Smith-Schuster. Okay. But if you were gung-ho about starting him, in the DFS space is different. I'm talking seasonal. And even so, he caught four balls on 5 targets. 66 of his yards were that touchdown catch where he wasn't covered. He ran down the right sideline. The safety didn't come over for help. The defensive back let him go thinking he was going to get help over the top. Didn't come. Herbert dropped the ball in. He just ran down the sideline. He didn't do anything. So really, this was a 3-catch, 40-yard effort from him, which is about what you should expect moving forward. I could say he's trending up a little bit, sure, because he's on the field a ton. They are throwing him the football. They are throwing the ball more effectively, the Chargers, than they had been earlier on. So all these things are a positive. I'm not saying that Quentin Johnston can't be on a roster and all that kind of stuff, but don't go chasing the points he produced yesterday. Because again, 66 yards of it was on a complete fluke. Complete. On the other side of things, Nick Chubb. I have Nick Chubb in the Dynasty League that I was talking about earlier. I love Nick Chubb. Jeff Mans loves Nick Chubb. Ted Schuster loves Nick Chubb. All of us, we've talked about Nick Chubb. Before his latest injury, you can make the argument that he was the best runner of the football in the NFL. Best pure running back in the NFL. Better than Derrick Henry, the best running back in football. But he does not have his burst that he had prior to the injury. Not surprising, but he doesn't have it right now. More importantly, and Jeff Mans has talked about this repeatedly on the Elite Sports Show. Again, that's Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 Eastern, Sirius XM. He's talked about it repeatedly that the offensive line with the Browns 2 years ago was the number one in football. This year, now that Chubb is back from injury, they suck. They're all kinds of beat up, and they're just not good. So Nick Chubb now needs to be more Nick Chubb than at any point in his career, because in the past, you combine the greatness of his running with an elite line, magic. Sweet love. Now we have a less than 100% Chubb running behind a really bad offensive line, and 15 carries for 39 yards. It's not happening. Okay? I say this because we're all cheering for Nick Chubb, and he scored a touchdown. Yay. Okay. Not yesterday, but previously. We're all cheering for Nick Chubb. Don't start Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is a flex option when you have no other play. Okay. I know a lot of people were expecting more exciting. I just laid out the scenario. It's not happening with Nick Chubb. Not with this offense, not with the way he looks right now. Not to say he can't have a 80-yard touchdown effort, sure. But the explosive, dynamic runner is not here. The offensive line is not there. Be very cautious playing Nick Chubb. Washington, the Giants. Washington, had a little bit more of a struggle in this one than anticipated. They won 27-22 against the Giants. Giants fall to 2-7. Commanders moved to 7-2. This one was interesting because Brian Robinson. This is a very interesting thing. Sunday mornings on Twitter at SiriusXM Fantasy from 10 to 1 Eastern. Just on Sunday mornings, I answer stardom sit-em questions. So don't send me any questions in Discord. Don't send me any questions on my own personal Twitter account on Sundays. I'm not going to see them. I'm on social media at SiriusXM Fantasy, 10 o'clock Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 1, those 3 hours before opening kick. At SiriusXM Fantasy is where I'm answering questions. So I'm answering the questions and going through and everything. And Brian Robinson's Twitter account says, I'll come back stronger than ever, or I'll be back soon, or I don't know what the hell. It was like a one. So speculation starts running wild that after his pregame workout that I think it was Mike Garofalo said that he didn't look good. A couple minutes later, Robinson's tweeting out, Why are players tweeting? I thought there was a limit anyway. Is it an hour and a half before games and he just did an hour and 45 minutes before the game started? I don't know why a player who's out of the game after a pregame warm-up that doesn't go very well goes to Twitter and breaks the story himself. Anyway, it was a very weird scenario. But bottom line is Robinson was surprisingly inactive because of a hamstring. And this happened an hour and 45 minutes before kickoff. So the idea was then, okay, McNichols takes over more of the rushing game. We see an increased workload for Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler goes 11 carries, 42 yards, and a touchdown. Boom. 3 catches for 41 yards. A solid effort for him. Slightly disappointing, but a solid effort for him. If you played him, you got paid, right? You got your 7 points as a receiver. You got your 4 points as a runner. You got your 6 points. Okay. For the touchdown, it all worked out. Unfortunately, Jeremy McNichols he wasn't the guy you wanted as the other running back. It ended up being Chris Rodriguez, who looked pretty good. It was pretty strong. He had 11 carries for 52 yards. He had 3 more carries than McNichols. Let's pull up the snap count real quickly. I always want to type in the old name for the Commanders. What a dumb name, by the way. Sorry. Anyway, Austin Ekeler played 29 snaps, McNichols 24, Rodriguez 20. So they spread this out very evenly. Ekeler ran 11 routes. Ekeler ran 13. McNichols ran 11. So this is a very shared backfield. 11 carries for Rodriguez, 11 carries for Ekeler, 8 carries for McNichols. None of them really did anything. They split it 3 ways. That's rough. That never really works, but at least you got the touchdown from Austin Ekeler. We don't know right now how much time Brian Robinson's going to miss. Hopefully we'll get more of an update early in the week so we can make plans around that. On the other side of things, Tyrone Tracy was disappointing, but he had his 19 touches or 17 touches. Just didn't do anything spectacular. Didn't get in the end zone. Malik Neighbors 9 for 59. Wan'Dale Robinson had 3 catches for 10 yards. Lost a touchdown on a pick play to Slayton. I don't know. Wan'Dale Robinson was one of the handful of players I was asked the most about yesterday. I don't know why anyone's starting Wan'Dale Robinson, because what happened yesterday is what's going to happen. 3 catches for 10 yards. He catches everything at or behind the line of scrimmage almost. There's nothing here. Sometimes he gets 12 targets and he gives you 6 for 70, but don't start Wan'Dale Robinson. Anyway, he lost a touchdown. So you got 10 points yesterday. 3 catches, 10. You got 4 points yesterday from him. It could have easily been 12 points, right? But anyway, the real guy I wanted to talk about was Theo Johnston, because Theo Johnston's starting to trend. He had 6 targets yesterday, which was second on the team. 3 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown. Theo Johnston, by the way, is a tight end. For those of you that don't know, you look at his participation yesterday. He played 55 of the 65 snaps. He was on the field a ton. He ran 22 routes, which is actually one more, than Wan'Dale Robinson. So he was on the field a ton. He was out. He was very active. You look at the usage. Daniel Bellinger ran 2 routes. Chris Manhertz ran 3. Manhertz got in the end zone for a touchdown. Okay, fine. That could have been 2 touchdowns for Theo Johnston. Theo Johnston's snap percentage is increasing. His role in this offense is increasing. He also, like Jadavian Sanders, is a guy that you can start looking at, in weeks like this, when there's buys and there's 4 buys and we're losing players. And who are we losing this week? We're losing David Njoku, who's an every week starter. We're losing Brock Bowers, who's an every week starter. Noah Fant. Okay, fine. Tucker Kraft. That's 3 starters we're losing this week. Guys like Jadavian Sanders and Theo Johnston are going to be players we talk more about this week. Again, we'll talk waivers with Armando Marcel tomorrow on the show. We'll also have articles, obviously, over at fantasyguru.com talking about the waiver wire. You can always ask your questions in Discord. All right, let's move on to the next game. Tennessee and the New England Patriots. This one goes to overtime. Drake May flings the ball up into the end zone for the second touchdown of Ramondre Stevenson to send it to overtime. The Titans then emerge in overtime, 20-17. Patriots are 2-7. Titans are 2-6. The Patriots, I think, have finally made a decision what to do with the receiver core. It's been really all over the place. They finally made a decision yesterday, and hopefully they stick with this. So there's a lot of clarity instead of who's going to run the routes and catch 3 balls this week. They stuck Demario Douglas in the slot and just said, play the slot, which is what he should do. He caught 7 of 9 targets. They then said, we're going to go with Kayshon Boutte and Kendrick Bourne out wide. And they just let these 3 guys go and sprinkle the other guys in. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Boutte had 2 catches for 18 yards on his 6 targets, but Kendrick Bourne, back from injury, and he was second on the team, tied for third on the team, with 6 targets, caught 4 of them for 41 yards. Bourne is somebody, again, if he's playing the majority of the snaps, and we'll pull this up here as we're talking, the fact that they simplified things is a really helpful. When you go to type something and you hit the wrong key, you ever do that and you end up saving something like to your favorites in your browser? No? That's just me? I just did it right there. I don't know. I saved my snaps page under some weird name. Anyway, the Patriots solidified things by having the 2 guys out wide, Booty and Bourne, and Douglas in the slot. Just do that. I think the offense will be more effective long-term if they do that. Drake May showed his athleticism. He ran for 95 yards. He made his mistakes, but he extended that last play. If you didn't see it, go watch that final touchdown at the end of regulation. He's running around the field. Before he makes the throw, he flung it up, but he made the throw to Stevenson for the touchdown. He threw 2 picks. He lost a fumble. So there's negatives with this offense. But Kendrick Bourne is going up. His playing time is increasing. His workload should stabilize at where it was yesterday. I don't think it's going to increase. But, 5-6 targets, the odd touchdown, the random dart throw play, that's the zone of Kendrick Bourne at this moment in time. On the other side of the thing, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is somebody that we talked about on this show. Actually, was it last Monday? I don't know. Maybe it was last Monday. It was some time in the recent past. And I said, look, this team just traded away DeAndre Hopkins. They got all these issues and everything like that. Jalen Burks is out with injury. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine plays all the plays. You want to throw a late dart. Jeff Mann did the same thing on his show, on the Elite Sports Show. And it's like, I had one question with Nick Westbrook-Ikhine yesterday, and I went with Tim Patrick. So it ended up being the wrong call. If you're watching, I apologize. I ended up being the wrong call yesterday to go that route. But we have talked about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine and the fact that, this is the guy that plays so many snaps. He's so involved in the offense that he is a dart throw. And we saw it yesterday. 6 targets, 5 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. Is that 3 weeks in a row where he scored a touchdown? Let me look that up as we're talking here. The volume yesterday, the 6 targets, 5 catches, that's as good as it's going to get. And it's not likely it's going to be that every week. Because if you look at his workload this season, you see that even this season, even as he's seeing his workload trend in terms of the snap count. The last 3 games before yesterday, he caught 5 passes. He caught 5 passes yesterday. The previous 3 games, he went for 58 yards. He went for 50 yards yesterday. So he basically matched the previous 3 games in production. But he has scored in 4 straight games. Now, remember, that's working with Mason Rudolph. And Will Levis, his shoulder is about right. And it seems like Will Levis will go back under center for the Titans. So that could screw this all up. But Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, 4 touchdowns in a row is hard to look away from. Be cautious because there's a very high likelihood he catches 4 balls for 32 scoreless yards the next game. This is not an explosive offense. But Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is someone who we talked about previously who scored for a 4th straight game yesterday. Chicago, Arizona. Arizona is 29. Bears 9. Let me take a sip of water. That's not water. It's actually chai spice tea. It's pretty good. The Cardinals moved to 5-4. The Bears fall to 4-4. Look, the Bears remember the Bears were very fortunate to win a game earlier this season. They should be 3-5 right now. This coaching staff is not preparing these players. There's problems all over the place, okay? Caleb Williams, 22 for 41, 217 yards. He's extending plays longer than he should because the offense is not moving the football. The offensive line is not helping out with great blocking, so he's constantly on the move, on the run. The pocket's never set. Again, he's doing too much. Instead of make a read, throw it out of bounds. He makes a read, starts running around. He's slinging balls behind his back, doing all this. It's just not working. The offense is not working. And you see that personified in Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet, 0 targets. Caleb Williams threw the ball 41 times yesterday. 41 times. And Cole Kmet, 0 targets. Before you say, well, he wasn't on the field. Oh, he was on the field. Cole Kmet played 63 of 74 snaps. He ran 41 routes. He ran a route on every pass. 0 targets. So obviously Cole Kmet is not usable in any space. I hope you weren't using him. I got a couple of Cole Kmet questions yesterday, but I think most people have moved on anyway. But it's just emblematic of what's going on with this Bears offense. Keenan Allen can't get going, 4 catches, 36 yards. DJ Moore, they can't get the ball to, 4 catches for 43 yards. Allen and Moore, who have had all pro level NFL seasons, had 19 targets yesterday. On the 19 targets, they caught 8 balls for 69 yards. An average game for each of those guys the last couple of years, they catch for 69 yards. They combined for that on 19 targets. Again, the offense is straight broken. And it was exemplified in Cole Kmet yesterday. Speaking of a broken offense, on the other side of the thing, the Cardinals won this football game. Was never really in doubt. They used James Conner. They used DeMarcado, excuse me. Trey Benson got in the touchdown. Conner took a big hit at the goal line and came out of the game. So Benson got a couple of carries down inside the 5-yard line, which is why he scored. Unfortunate for Conner owners, but that's why. But Benson looked good. They did some trickeration and got the ball to Trey McBride for his touchdown, which was lucky because he caught 3 balls for 35 yards. If you missed it, Trey McBride is running wide open in the end zone, waving his arms, and Kyler Murray throws the ball over his head by about 10 feet. Kyler Murray, I've said it all before, okay? Not a Kyler Murray guy. But the numbers still say QB1. You can't deny the production. The production is always QB1. It's been that way for years now with him. But games like yesterday just happen. And I want to talk about Marvin Harrison again because I feel like, didn't we just have this conversation? You win a football game 29-9. You're in the playoff hunt at 5-4. Okay, all right. Marvin Harrison, 5 targets, 2 catches, 34 yards. And remember back on draft day when Harrison goes to the Cardinals, so much excitement in the world of football. Perfect landing spot. He and Kyler Murray are going to make sweet love, all this kind of stuff. Think back to draft day in August when you had your football. And here comes Marvin Harrison off the board with pick 11 or pick 16, right at the end of the first round, start of the second round. He's not producing. And it's not his fault. They're not utilizing him. And I continue to say this, and at some point it will bite them. You have one feasible wide receiver. Michael Wilson is not bad, but working with Kyler Murray, it's just not going to happen. Yesterday, 1 target, no catch. Greg Dortch is a slot guy that is, I think he's 5'7", 165. Like, he's tiny. 1 target, no catch. They completed 2. Kyler Murray completed 2 passes yesterday to wide receivers. 2. So this is why I was not behind drafting Marvin Harrison as early as he went. This is why I thought it was a mistake then. It's clearly proved itself to be the case. And each week we end up keep dropping Marvin Harrison down the rankings because it's like at some point we know what should be done, but what the Cardinals are doing isn't what should be done. Jacksonville and Philadelphia. Philadelphia sneaks out a 28-23 victory. It shouldn't have been this close. These teams, Philadelphia Eagles are clearly a better football team than the Jaguars, who stink. Jaguars fall to 2-7. Eagles improve to 6-2. Tank Bigsby. Let's talk about the backfield of the Jaguars. The Jaguars' backfield was messy yesterday. Travis Etienne returned. So we had Bigsby with 28 snaps, Etienne with 16 snaps, Dearness Song with 13 snaps. Travis Etienne played 13 of his 18 snaps in the first half. In the second half, they gave him 4 snaps. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand it. No one did anything because, again, all 3 guys were involved. You had Trevor Lawrence with 2 rushing touchdowns of all things. He didn't throw for a passing score. He threw 2 picks, but he had 2 rushing scores. So Etienne does nothing. Bigsby does nothing. Johnston does nothing. It's going to be very tough if you, again, we see this around the NFL. We were talking about earlier. If you have 3 running backs like the Raiders did this week, if you use 3 running backs, you got none. It's very rare that we have an Austin Ekeler type of effort when you're using 3 running backs like this. The guy has to get in the end zone or you're not getting it. And again, getting in the end zone was Trevor Lawrence on the ground yesterday. So if you're a Bigsby owner, you got to be tremendously concerned. This is not a surprise. The expectation was Etienne would return and really eat into Bigsby's work. The question, would it be 55-45 Bigsby or 55-45 Etienne? I don't want to take too much away from what happened yesterday because it was the first game back for Etienne. But yesterday it was, what? I'm trying to look at the numbers. It was 50% Bigsby, 30% Etienne, 20% Johnston, something like that. That just doesn't work. Etienne's role should grow, but will it grow enough? And will this offense produce enough, to be frank, that it matters? If Bigsby's playing the first and second down and Etienne's being the third down play, That might help the offense, but it's going to make both guys flex options. And then it's all going to come down to game flow. So it's a messy situation that did not get any clarity yesterday with the Jaguars. A.J. Brown left this game at halftime. I talked earlier about him on my team. 2 catches for 36 yards. Now, the good news is we heard today that his knee is not expected to be a long-term issue. So the hope is he'll be able to play the next game for the Eagles, which is vitally important for the Eagles because the Eagles have obviously lost Brown at times. They've lost Devonta Smith at times. They need both these guys. They don't need them to win football games necessarily, okay? But week after week, with Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 20 times, yesterday, 18 for 24, 230 yards and 2 touchdowns, an excellent game passing. He ran the ball for 67 yards and another touchdown. So Jalen Hurts is fine. But at some point, it's going to catch up with an offense if they're only throwing the ball 22 times a week. If they only have, they still don't have Dallas Goedert, who hopefully will be back for the next game. If they have Goedert and Brown and Smith, they're number 1, 2, and 3 pass options. Not having them all active is difficult. Sounds like A.J. Brown's going to be okay. Devonta Smith had a great touchdown, a beautiful touchdown grab yesterday, 4 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. He had another great catch where he ran all the way across the field on a perfect throw from Jalen Hurts. But there's just no volume there. They need to increase the volume of pass attempts. Good news is it sounds like A.J. Brown is going to be okay. The Lions defeated the Packers 24-14 in a rain game. Jared Goff, again, 18 for 22. Extremely efficient. Didn't do anything, but extremely efficient. Sam LaPorta is, I hate to say we told you so, but one of our biggest hits of the year over at fantasyguru.com was telling everybody that they were overdrafting Sam LaPorta, and don't do it. Now, we might have said go draft Mark Andrews, and that hasn't worked. So I'm not saying that the other half of it got right, but instead of wasting your 2nd or 3rd round pick on Sam LaPorta, which everyone was doing, you were able to at least take somebody there and then spend a 5th or 6th round pick on Mark Andrews, right? So there was an edge to be gained there. LaPorta with Jameson Williams out for that second game, he should be back the next game from a suspension. The first game he had 6 catches, I believe it was. LaPorta did. Yesterday it was back to 3 targets, 2 catches, 28 yards, no touchdowns. He's not getting in the end zone, not being utilized at the goal line. There's not enough volume here. Amon-Ra St. Brown got in the end zone again. He scores a touchdown every week. If Amon-Ra St. Brown wasn't scoring a touchdown every week, we'd be pissed off at his production. There is no pass catching production right now with the Lions. It's Khalif Raymond scoring a touchdown. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown scoring a touchdown. It's Jahmyr Gibbs with the receiving score. It's whoever it might be. Jameson Williams with the receiving score. It's just this randomness of this offense because they're throwing the ball 22 times a game. They're leaning on Montgomery and Gibbs. They're playing good enough defense, and it's working. So, again, Sam LaPorta, I wish there was hope. I don't see how there's hope with Jameson Williams on the return. On the other side of things, Jordan Love gutted through a game, didn't play great, 273, no touchdowns and a pick. Josh Jacobs came up over and over and over and over and over and over, and I'm not exaggerating, and over yesterday in the start and sit-em thing. Did he have a great game? No. Did he play his normal complement of snaps? No. Did he touch the ball 15 times for 100 scrimmage yards? Yes. You always start Josh Jacobs. I've said this, I think the last 2 weeks we've gone through this on the Sirius XM show with Jeff Manns on Wednesdays. You always start Josh Jacobs. And I told 95% of people that asked me yesterday about Josh Jacobs to start him too. Again, was it an ideal effort in the rain with an ankle issue? No, but it was 15 touches for 100 scrimmage yards. You don't ever bench that. I think I said it on the Elite Sports Show. It's 15 touches and 80 yards every week. That's what it is. And then he gets in the end zone and catches a couple balls. Yesterday, he had a couple of catches. Don't ever bench Josh Jacobs. I mean, I guess there's scenarios where he's your 4th running back, 3rd running back, and you've got 4 of the top 15 wide receivers. Okay, people have some great teams out there. But the vast majority of people, you never bench Josh Jacobs. He was always going to play yesterday. He was always going to be the lead back yesterday. And though he didn't get in the end zone, he was still productive yesterday for the Packers. Not productive yesterday. Rams defeated the Seattle Seahawks 26-20 in overtime. Puka Nacua, give me an effing break. I really wanted to swear there. Give me an effing break. Number 1, and my dad told me this because this used to my dad was a pretty good football player. Long story I could tell another time, but he used to always tell me from the age of this big, don't ever throw punches in football. It's effing stupid. Puka Nacua got engaged on a pick and threw a punch and got chucked out of the game. So he played just under half the game. He was thrown out of the game for fighting. Was he frustrated that he had one catch for 14 yards or one catch for 11 yards? I don't know. Did his knee hurt him and he didn't want to admit it and he just wanted to get out of the game? I don't think so. But don't ever throw a punch in a football game because it's going to get you ejected, number one. Number two, why would you throw a punch at a freaking helmet? You're going to break your hand. And my dad told me the story once in high school. This guy was arguing with my dad. My dad got up in his face because he knew the guy was a hothead. And he saw the guy going to punch his head, and all he did was dip his head, and the guy broke his hand on his helmet. He threw a punch at my dad. My dad saw the punch come and went like this. The guy smashed his hand, broke his hand. Puka Nacua, what are you doing? You're going to throw a punch, break your hand, and now miss another month of action? So Puka Nacua is the most productive, most uneven, most uncertain wide receiver in football. And that is saying something, because I heard I said this all last year. I said it all this preseason. I've said it all this season. This guy can't be trusted. You should have played Puka yesterday. If you started him, it was the right decision. His decisions on the football field, unacceptable. Don't get carried away with DeMarcus Robinson, who scored the 2 touchdowns. Obviously, his entire role, increase in snaps, increase in targets, he saw 9 of them, was all because Puka was out. If Puka was out, those are all Puka's numbers. So don't go rushing to the waiver wire for Robinson. Unless we hear that, Puka's knee or he hurt his finger throwing the punch. Jackson Smith and Jigba on the other side really stepped up with DK Metcalf being down. Lockett got in the end zone, but he only went 3 for 63 and a touchdown. Noah Fant was also out, so Barner really stepped forward in terms of the target share. He saw 7 targets. They only caught 4 of them for 27 yards. Didn't run the ball extremely effectively. Geno Smith had 3 interceptions on the day. He had a fumble that was recovered at least, but he didn't play a great football game despite going 363-3 with the 3 picks. And they lost the game in overtime. But Jackson Smith and Jigba had a breakout performance. 7 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. 182. 13 targets. Could go down as his best game of his career. Very likely will. Don't chase this because the next game, they have a bye this week, but the next game, DK Metcalf is expected back. There's no chance the JSN's getting 13 targets with DK Metcalf back on the field. He'll settle back into the 7-8 target, 5-catch, 60-yard guy. But he did prove yesterday that he's got juice, and I think he solidified the thoughts a lot of us had heading into yesterday's game that he's surpassed Tyler Lockett. It's actually officially happened. Lockett will still play his role, still go deep, still stretch defenses like he did yesterday. But JSN is a more integral part of this offense. Huge effort yesterday for the youngster. The final game to discuss, Indianapolis and Minnesota. The Vikings emerge victorious 21-13. They go to 6-2. The Colts move to 4-5. Michael Pittman ain't right. And I suggested to a good amount of people yesterday to start Michael Pittman. Mea culpa here. It was the wrong call. I will, no matter what we hear about Michael Pittman this week, he didn't look right. And I think it's his back, right? We've heard lingering back. He doesn't look right. He had 1 catch for 14 yards on his 4 targets. That's multiple games now where he just hasn't really displayed any chemistry with Joe Flacco. The Vikings are not an easy defense to face, so clearly that was part of this here too. But Pittman just doesn't look right. And I know what we spent on draft day. I know what he did last year. I know what the expectations were. I know how it's better with Flacco than it was with Anthony Richardson. I know all these things. But until we start seeing the 6-catch, 60-yard stuff from Pittman, it's going to be very tough for me to recommend anyone start in the next game for the Colts in any format. You're a 14-team, 3-wide receiver league. Okay. But even then, just not impressed by anything I'm seeing there. Downs, by the way, 6 catches for 60 yards. He didn't play. Something to think about. He's got that toe issue, right? I think it is. He had a 45% target share on routes run last night. He ran 20 routes last night and got 9 targets. That's impossible to sustain long term. Let's look up the snap counts. He only played 27 snaps last night, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly from what I saw. The Colts here, 48 snaps for Alec Pierce, 41 snaps for Michael Pittman. Josh Downs, 27. So while the numbers were solid yesterday, and while I'm not panicking with Josh Downs at all, it's going to be really tough for him to be better than 660 if he's not playing more. How much of that was matchups? How much of that was game? How much of that was his foot? Something to keep an eye on. Let's keep a really close eye on because we're here. He's missing practice each week, but playing. And he was productive last night. He was a lead pass catcher for the Colts. But again, fine line, little small edge we're living on there with him. He's got to see the field more. He's got to be out there more. Or efforts like last night are just as good as it's possibly going to get. On the other side of things, TJ Hockenson returns. I think this went about as expected. Now, I know some people were forced to start him. Some people wanted to start him. Some people are disappointed by the effort. 4 targets, 3 catches, 27 yards. Again, that's about what I expected. You look at his snap count, he had 33 snaps and ran 25 routes. Johnny Munt ran 19 routes and ran 6 routes, had 19 snaps. Josh Oliver played more. He had 41 snaps, but only ran 14 routes. So Hockenson played about half the game, a little less. He played less than half the game, which I think in his first game back, okay. He ran 25 routes, which, was easily the lead at the tight end position. Only 2 wide receivers ran more routes, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. So things will get better for him. The real zinger, obviously, yesterday was the fact that while he's playing half the game, then Josh Oliver late goes 558 and a touchdown. So, Hockenson will see things improve. The snap count will increase. The target share will increase. The production will increase. But I think 34 passes last night that Darnold threw. Isn't that a season best? We looked that up because they're just playing their defense and grinding games out. I'm pulling them up as we talk here. Yeah, that's the first time he's thrown more than 31 passes. If they go back to throwing 29 a week, which is, again, kind of where they've been all week, it's going to be really tough for Hockenson to produce huge numbers, to be more than a 555 guy, because you're going to get 7 to 9 targets to Jefferson. You're going to get 3 to 6 targets to Addison. That's half the targets on the team, right? Then you got a target here or there to guys like last night, who Powell and Sherfield and Naylor. Then we got, 3, 4, 5 passes going to Aaron Jones. It's 5 or 6 targets to TJ Hockenson. So keep those expectations in check. I know a lot of people have been waiting for him to take him to the promised land, and maybe he does. But remember as well, the production that he's given us in the past, TJ Hockenson, was not working in this offense with Sam Darnold. So something to think about. Same offense, but a different quarterback in Sam Darnold. So that's kind of my review of where we're at here. I do this every Monday. Remember, go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner to get involved with any of the seasonal fantasy football stuff, the wagering fantasy football stuff, the DFS football stuff. Use that promo code BOO for those products. As you can see behind me, we've got the all-in MVP package. If you sign up for basketball right now, fantasy basketball, we give you fantasy hockey for free. If you sign up for fantasy hockey, we give you fantasy basketball for free. So it's a 2-for-1. Buy one, get one free. The BOGO, Jeff Mans is so fond of saying. So check that out over at fantasyguru.com. Let's look at some of the comments here. Henry says, tough week for fantasy, so many injuries. Yeah, absolutely. I went through my own. It's getting really messy, and we're halfway through the season. It's a long season, like we've talked about a lot. You started slow. There's still time to come back. You started great. There's still time to lose it. Remember, we're trying to build up. I've got a couple of teams that fell to 5-4 yesterday that I feel pretty good about, including that one team. I'm 5-4 when I had DK Metcalf out, Mike Evans out, and I got half a game yesterday out of AJ Brown. Like, if those 3 guys get healthy, I'm 5-4. Those 3 guys get healthy. So we're building toward the end of the season. We just need to get to the fantasy playoffs. Henry says that I lost Godwin, London, Rice in the last month. Yeah, was it supposed to be the safest position for injuries? None of them really are. It's theoretically safer than running back. Yes. Theoretically, the safest position is quarterback. Yeah. But yeah, this is football. Anyone can get hurt at any time. We know that. Eric S. says, hey, Ray, thanks for the suggestion yesterday. Didn't help as Pops took me down. He threw Getsy and Stevenson at me, and I had no counter. Oh, yeah, Getsy with his 2 touchdowns and his giddy dance. Stevenson with his 2 touchdowns, including that game-tying game catch as the seconds are running off the clock as the game is over, sending it into overtime. Go Bucks. I hope they – by the way, I love the golf cart there, Eric. That's the only way to play golf. Most of my life playing golf, I walk the course. That's for the birds. Rent the golf cart. That's the way to go. David P. says, Ray, you always do a good job breaking the games down. Thank you, David. I appreciate that. Thank you for watching the show, too. I appreciate that. You're always around. Thank you so much. Sean says, the Raiders are cleaning house. Yep. Absolutely. The only problem is can only do so much for the players. They're kind of stuck with what they got there. Back to David. Do you think Brooks will lack his burst? And what are your thoughts about his production going forward? We're talking about Jonathan Brooks of the Panthers. He is assumingly good to go this week for the Panthers. We saw again yesterday Chuba Hubbard do a very solid job for an offense. It's very, very boring. He got in the end zone twice. Jonathan Brooks, we'll see. Now, this has been something that we've talked about a lot. A lot of people apparently drafted Jonathan Brooks expecting him to be starting for them in week 6 or something. Like, it was really weird. Some of the people out there just didn't get the legitimate timeline for Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks is always going to be a second half play this year. And then it was going to be, what do we get? Some people, people, hopefully not David, you or anybody else listening made that mistake, but a lot of people made the mistake of Jonathan Brooks going to be a league winner. And it's like, well, he still could be. It's possible. Sure. But will he lack his burst? It's a fair question. Will he completely take over the backfield with Chuba Hubbard being pretty good? Because remember, the Panthers have said they're not trading Hubbard, right? So they're going to go 1-2 punch here. Even if he takes over the backfield, he somehow surpasses Hubbard. Okay, let's assume that's the case. Is the offense good enough for it to matter? Like, Hubbard's been touching the ball 20 times a week and giving you 90 yards and a touchdown every other week, right? Something like that. I'm making these numbers up, but they're probably pretty close. If we've got 25 touches out of the backfield, and now it's 13 for Hubbard and 12 for Brooks, like, is this going to be like the Lions with Gibbs and Montgomery? And the answer is no, it's not. So Jonathan Brooks, my hope for Jonathan Brooks is that he becomes a flex option down the stretch. I think that's a fair assumption. Whether it's more than that, less than that, there is still a chance he doesn't play. It's a really small chance, I think, at this point, but there's still a tiny chance he doesn't play this year. But I think that Brooks will be out on the field the next game. That's my expectation. He'll probably play 20 snaps and see 6-8 touches, and then we'll go. The real problem for the offense is this offense is not good. They got rid of Deontay Johnson. There's rumors they might trade Adam Thielen. Andy Dalton is not good per se, but he still is a better option for this offense than Bryce Young. It seems like they're back in the Bryce Young game, which I understand completely. So it's just not a place to get excited about Jonathan Brooks, unfortunately. We'll see. I don't know if he'll lack the burst or not. I don't know if he'll lack the opportunity or not. I'll hope he's a flex option down the stretch. That's kind of my thought. And then finally, Tony T says, does that make Getsy a must-add this week? No, it doesn't. And I feel very good about the following, that I specifically said exactly the following last week with Getsy. If Getsy is playing and there is no T. Higgins, Getsy is a starting option. If T. Higgins is in the lineup, Getsy is not a starting option. And I don't feel any differently about this today than I did last week when I said that. What happened? Quad injury for Higgins, didn't play. Mike Getsy blows up. Getsy's production this season has coincided with games where T. Higgins hasn't played. We did get the news that Eric All, the other tight end, his knee has almost certainly got a torn ACL, which is terrible news for the youngster. It's also the same knee that he's already had ACL surgery on, which is not good. But his season is likely over. Getsy yesterday played 27 snaps. Eric All played 15 before he got hurt. Tanner Hudson played 20 snaps. Drew Sample played 56. Sample ran 21 routes. Getsy only ran 25. The bottom line is that if Eric All hadn't gotten hurt yesterday, we wouldn't have seen the production we saw at Getsy because he just wasn't going to be on the field and utilized. Even with the injury to All, the reason the production was there is because, again, Joe Burrow is throwing for 5 touchdowns and because T. Higgins is down. Mike Getsy is still a tight end too. He's still a streaming option. He's still a guy that I would only want to use when T. Higgins is out of the lineup. So he's definitely not a must-add. Definitely not a must-add for you this week, Tony, off the waiver wire. So thanks for listening, everybody. Really appreciate it. We'll be back again tomorrow here on Fantasy Sports Daily, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. I am Ray Flowers. Find me over at fantasyguru.com. Still touching on baseball a little bit. Usually every Wednesday, do a little bit of something there for baseball. It's free stuff, so you can read that. This show is obviously free. We hope you head over to fantasyguru.com and subscribe to some of the products. Get involved, the largest active community in fantasy sports. All the sports, we cover everything. College football, NASCAR, PGA, MMA. We cover everything over at fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Tell a friend about this show. Pass the word along. Let's grow this a little bit. That's fun. We have a great community. I know all of you go back and forth and talk to each other and everything like that. That's great. So tell everyone to get involved here. This free show, Fantasy Sports Daily. I'm Ray Flowers. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily. We'll see you tomorrow on Tuesday. Remember, FSD is powered by the one and only fantasyguru.com. Good luck tonight on Monday Night Football.